Sisters, and today we're going to stitch our star block. This behind me is our star block quilt. It's our full star, and we also have a half star that we'll show you. Here we have our star half quilt, and this is the block right here. So you can see we have a half of a piece star and the other half is a plain piece of fabric with the quilting. To do the star block, you will need your background fabric, or I should say this is your backing fabric. You will need fabric 3 in a strip. You will need fabric 6 in a strip and fabric 7 a square. You will also need your thread A for your needle and your bobbin, your thread B for your needle and your bobbin, embroidery bobbin thread, and a vanish wash away thread.
Hi, this is Annie from HoopSisters, and for step 1 on the star block, you're going to hoop your battleizer, you're going to put your thread A in the needle and embroidery bobbin thread in the bobbin, and you're going to put this on your machine and it's going to stitch a placement stitch. For step 2, you're going to put your water soluble thread in the needle, and you're going to take your fabric 7 and you're going to place it right over the placement stitch, and the machine will sew a tack down. We finished step 2 and it stitched out the tack down as well as a placement stitch for the rest of the design. And now we're going to take thread A and put it in the needle only, and fabric 3 we're going to take and we're going to lay it right side up over this diamond shape, and it's going to stitch a tack down. Alright, we have done our tack down stitch for step 3, and I've trimmed it close as if for applique on the outside edge of the star tip. On the inside we've trimmed it a scant 1/4 inch. So on to step 4, we're going to take our fabric 6 and we're going to lay it right sides down, raw edges even. You're going to want to make enough come up here so that it does cover the star point, and the machine will sew a seam. For step 5, you're going to take your fabric 6 and you're going to flip it right side up. You're going to finger press it and the machine will stitch a tack down. Okay, we finished doing the tack down stitch, and as you can see I trimmed it close as if for applique on the outside edge. The inside edge has a scant 1/4 inch seam. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric 3, lay it right side down, again making sure you have taken into account how long that star tip is. The machine will stitch a tack down. And as you can see, it's going to repeat through the entire process until you get all those star points down, so it'll be a stitch a seam, flip it, sew a tack down, trim, and continue all the way around. When we get to step 16, we will then show you how to complete the last star point. We've just finished step 16, which is stitching the seam right there. And normally what we'll do is we're going to finger press, fold it back this way and finger press. We're still going to do that. But since this is the last star point, there's some additional finger pressing we'll need to do. The first thing is down here in the corner, you're going to have extra fabric there. You're going to just take that and finger press it so that it lines up with this seam right here. So I'm finger pressing my little corner. The other finger pressing that will need to take place is you're going to have to tuck your seam allowance in prior to doing your tack down. So this extra fabric that's here, you're going to want to finger press it so that it lines up with that seam line here. So let me do my finger pressing. And if you have any extra fabric here, you're going to take your hoop scissors and trim it 3/8 to 1/2 inch and leave that much of it behind. And then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to take your steam a seam too, and you're going to lay it right here and adhere it to, you can pay, and then you stick up here. Can't talk.
You're going to line it up right next to that stitching.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Gosh, that's what big sisters are for. But you're going to line it up there. Then when you have it folded like this, when you bring it back, it lines up after you tear the paper off, and you can stick it to it. It lines up perfectly where it needs to go. Then your machine stitches a tack down here. And don't worry about this not being stitched down, because it will be stitched down with the quilting at a later step. For step 18, we're going to put our thread A in the needle only, and we're going to stitch a stem stitch around the perimeter of the star. Okay, just completed step 18, and you may find that if you have any little fringes or anything that are sticking out, don't worry, because this is not the only thing that's going to cover the raw edge. It'll be in a couple of steps. We're going to do more stem stitching over the top of that. For step 19, you're going to put your water soluble thread in the needle only, And if you have a thread cutting feature on your machine, you're going to want to turn it off at this time. Because we have the back on, after this you're going to want to have a real pretty back, and turning the thread cutting feature off will avoid any knots or bird's nests on the back. And we're going to put our block back on. Here's my backing fabric, and what you're going to do is you're going to take a temporary spray adhesive, spray the back of your backing fabric, and then lay it over your block, center it, make sure it's on there right, and then put it back on your machine and stitches are tacked on to hold that back on. For step 20, you're going to put your thread A in the needle and also in the bobbin, and we're going to stitch a stem stitch around the outside edge. To begin our stem stitch, since our backing fabric is on there, we want the back to look pretty, and one of the ways to make it look pretty is before you begin stitching is to bring your bobbin thread up to the top. Sure, it's that easy. And then just start stitching with your bobbin thread at the top, and it'll help avoid any messes on the back. For step 21, you're going to put your thread B in the needle and also in the bobbin, and it's going to sew the quilting. Just a reminder, before you begin sewing, you're going to want to bring your bobbin thread to the top to help to avoid any bird's nests or ugliness on the back of your block.
We have 2 star blocks totally finished, and Annie stitched one according to instruction with her thread A and B where it was supposed to be, so she ended up with pink thread on the outside. I, however, being a rebel, decided to switch my thread color, and I did B on the outside and A on the inside, so you can kind of see a difference. There's no Hoop Sisters police, so do whatever you want to do. And also on the back, I forgot to turn off my thread cutter when we were sewing, and so I have some pretty messy knots. Annie, being the perfect girl that she is, turned her thread cutter on, and it looks much better, so we wanted to point that out to you. So I'm going to show you how to trim the blocks, and like all of our Hoop Sisters blocks, if you have an edge that will be on the outside, which is where the binding will be, that's going to be stitched trimmed 1/4 inch past the basting line. So we'll take, and I always do that first, we'll take our regular quilting ruler with our 1/4 inch mark. We'll line the 1/4 inch mark up with the basting line and trim it off through all layers. Oops.
Okay, we're gonna keep rolling, folks.
Okay, we're gonna keep rolling.
It's been a long day.
Let me try that again. It's not easy to rotary cut on top of quilts. There we go. 1/4 inch through all layers, through the front and the back, and then the rest of the block will be trimmed using the trimmer by George.
We are professionals here. I'm not sure.
Trimmer by George has a little crimped edge that will protect the front of your block. So you take the front of your block, pull it back, snug it up, lay it down nice and flat, and I give my battleizer a little bit of a tug, and you can see that crimped edge is protecting my quilt block front, and I don't have any fabric sticking out, so I'm ready to trim right through it. And I'll do that on the remainder of my edges. And then after I get the remainder of my edges trimmed with the trimmer, when I flip it over, you can see I've totally removed the battleizer and the backing. And now I need to trim the rest of it with my quilting ruler. And I'll line up the 1/4 inch with the basting line.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Success! You tried trimming on a ironing board that wiggles with a quilt on top. So there we go. There we have our trimmed block front and back. This would be the edge for the binding, and this would be the edge we join.
Beautiful. That's our star block.